Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 450, and today we're doing battle with Vayne, Jarvan, Galio. And so Vayne, Jarvan, Galio, this is a deck that has a lot of closest to my heart. I feel like the only two people in the world that ever play this are me and Infinity Patrons, and it's a deck that I don't think really gets enough time in the spotlight. And so this is what very similar to what we took to the top 8 of the last Eternal Open, and it's what we're going to be looking with today. But the thing that really sparked my memory with this is Lucia Dices over on the Twitter pointed out to me what the Brazilian contingent had been playing over the course of the past couple of days, and they've been sporting this Fiora Galio deck. They had a screenshot to where I think NNT Fanatio was still on here, and Micus was on here, and just a big collection of people absolutely bruising with this Fiora Galio deck. You can see Kuwako's come in and picked up on it now. He's not in the Brazilian contingent, but he is certainly one of the top players in the world, usually hanging out at rank 1 on the ladder. And so I've got that version of the deck pulled up. You can see that this is a very formidable heavy deck using Balin the Benevolent and the unit boosting cards on the toughness side like Darkened Spear and Troll Chant, Shield of Durandi in here to really help enhance those formidables, and then Champion Strength to close out the games that your champions weren't able to do it with. And, you know, I took a peek at this, and the first thing I had to say is like, yeah, you got to really watch yourself as you see these style of players come out here with these decks. Like, if you want to quick peek at the things that's happening on the ladder, I know the ladder's kind of busted with Standard being out here right now, but Kawako that we just mentioned is at rank 10 or rank 9 on the Standard ladder. If you look at Micah's, they're at 45. If you start searching up the NNT team, they have 3 people hanging out in the top 100 right now, and these people are just better than everybody else, right? And so this is the kind of space you run into whenever you see Eternal decks running around. You have these people that are just straight up better than the normal people on the ladder, and then you get to sprinkle in the weird matchmaking that you get in Eternal to where you'll play legitimate iron skilled players, and the decks just kind of go off the chart in terms of win rate. But when I got looking at this deck, I was like, man, this reminds me quite a bit of Vayne Jarvan Galio, or Vayne Jarvan, that we were playing in the previous season. And I feel like we can take this deck and take all the bad cards out and put good cards in it, and we'll really have something special here. It's one of the things that I've found in the previous day as well. You know, you take a deck that's got some promise, you just take all the bad cards out, replace them with some good cards, and you're kind of off to the races. And so the big thing with the Vayne Jarvan Galio deck in the previous format is we were relying heavily on the forge mechanic, and so we were looking to use like the Weaponsmith's Apprentice and the Hearthblood Mender to strengthen up some equipment, and then that way, as your units kind of fell off the map, you still had this strong equipment lingering in the background that you were able to use to close out the games against control decks. And so while we've kind of moved away from that idea of using the forge mechanic in the equipment, the new big bruiser in town is going to be Balin the Benevolent. And I feel like we're just, as a whole, in the community of Legends of Runeterra, not giving enough credit to these abilities that do stuff to allies everywhere. I feel like we just had the season of Siren Song, and people kind of washed that filth off their skin. Now that we're out here in this Eternal season, we're kind of forgetting that concurrent timelines is just a fucking nutter that still needs to be nerfed into oblivion. That's a kind of pseudo everywhere effect. And now we have Balin the Benevolent out here with this everywhere effect that gets applied to the Formidables. And so I really, really, really just love these effects that let you come down, boost stuff that's currently on the board, but then also boost things later in the game. So your deck just kind of scales up as the game naturally progresses. But the thing that I've really kind of tried to harp home with Balin is 2 things. Number 1, you have to decide how deep you want to be going down the formidable path. So you're going to most certainly have games to where you just don't draw Balin, and does your deck suck at that point just playing with a bunch of bad formidables? And I've been really happy with the collection of formidables running around in this deck. The Petricite Hound really gets to fill that space that we saw in the older versions of this deck with the Steadfast Elkin, to where it's just a nice strong unit in the early game that can load up on a Darkened Spear and really start popping off. So having a essentially 4 power attacker on turn 2 that's also boosting units in your deck is quite good. And then the Petricite Broadwing, of course, just a strong unit all around, and Petricite Charger working very interestingly in this format, depending on the type of decks that are running around. If you're seeing a lot of Seraphine-based decks with damage-based removal, the Petricite Charger can come in and give those decks lots of fits. And so I think with that in mind, the Formidable package in this style of deck is just good enough on its own without Balin, and then that gets to kind of turbocharge him. The second thing with Balin is he has an attack ability. This is what we always describe as with Puppy, is the more times you can attack with this ability, the more times you get to use it, the stronger that they're going to get. And so while in that the previous deck we looked at, they were only using Champion Strength, I feel like the real winner to add into this kind of space is going to be Cataclysm. And so Cataclysm lets you start a free attack challenging an opposing unit. That does activate this Balin-based ability if we're wanting to activate that formidable strength kind of thing. But to me, just activating that formidable ability isn't really enough to include Cataclysm, but the synergies kind of continue on from there. The Yordle Ranger is the new big addition to this style of deck. Its attack ability is sort of exactly what Balin is doing, right? Giving all of our Formidables additional health, which is going to help increase their attack power, but this is a unit that both has Scout and an attack ability, works fantastically with the Cataclysms and the tumbles out of Vayne, letting us activate this attack ability multiple times, but also doing the Scout-based shenanigans. So if you're not familiar what you can do with this, let's say it's our opponent's attack token and we tumble a Yordle Ranger, that's going to count as a Scout attack. So we're going to get to attack again after that initial burst. Or if it's our turn, we can do stuff, say like open attack with all of our units. We make that normal attack. Then after the first combat, we can still tumble or we can Cataclysm this Yordle Ranger. That will count as a Scout attack, give us the attack token back, and then we're free to attack again with the remainder of our units. So we can get 3 attacks in the same turn using these Scout units along with Cataclysm or Tumble. Very powerful type abilities you can do there. And then last but not least, we do have the Darkened Spear in this deck. Fantastic addition where it works good early, giving our formidable units the bonus health, which in turn gives them that kind of bonus attack. Then it's also good late with the Inaka coming on board, having the very powerful attack ability that puts additional units into play. And then the Inaka also works fantastically with the likes of the tumbles and the cataclysms, just generating additional units based off of that attack. And so some of the things I do want to call out with this deck, in this format in general, I think you have to have some kind of plan for dealing with an early game unit that can just take over the game. And so Zoe, Akshan, Samira, things like Nora a little bit less, but you have these cards that if they come on board and you don't answer it, your opponent just wins the game. And so we're playing the 2 Fleet Feather Trackers, the 3 Petricite Broadwings, the 3 Cataclysms to help in that early game kind of mess. So we have a few answers to those style of things. And then I think the other thing to kind of call out with this deck is it's a little scary playing all of these Formidables. I think you run into very interesting play patterns with the Formidables. So if you want to say, your opponent's Frostbites are no longer good, right? Your opponent's Frostbites aren't any good because they just don't do anything to a Formidable. Things like Troll Chant become a attack-based kind of card since you're boosting the toughness on a Formidable unit. It can now deal additional damage, but there are also a lot of downsides to these type of abilities. The thing that you're going to have to be ultra aware of in this format that has so much Cosmic Call running around is there's that very expensive Celestial spell that obliterates all the units with 3 or less attack. That will come up and just ruin your day and blow up all of your units and all of your equipment, which is very painful. And then if the format kind of evolves to where cards like Calling Strike or popular, or the various Shadow Isles removal spells are popular, like Quietus and Shadow Isles Calling Strike and Eradicate and the like. Those are all very strong against our units and can cause some trouble there. But let's get that out of the way. Let's go ahead, jump on into some games, see what we can do. But you all know what has to happen before the battles begin. We got to pay that pay-to-win price. Petricite Broadwing, you're getting the bonus on secondary account. We're trying to get our secondary account up to Masters across today and tomorrow, and that is the perfect pay-to-win price to pay. Getting that Petricite Broadwing ready for battle. It's going to feel good. I can certainly tell. I can tell right from the start, Petricite Broadwing. All right, up against Akshan Lee Sin. And so this deck kind of brings up, a couple of the points I like to make in the sense that, number one, We do want to have units capable of dealing with an early game action. We are starting off with a Fleet Feather Tracker here, potentially loading it up with a Darkened Spear to try and take down action. That's on the table for the moment. The other thing I like to call out is there's a bit of like flexibility you can use with these cards in terms of, do I want to play something like Champion Strength, or do I want to play something like a Buried in Ice, or even if you're looking to go a little bit cheaper, you can include something like Harsh Winds into the equation. And as it kind of stands in the format right now, I'm pretty happy to be including the Champion Strength. It's just the most proactive out of all of those choices. The thing that also kind of worries me is there's just like a lot of big Celestial style units running around, and I prefer to be able to just try and attack through it as opposed to have our units get popped by Buried in Ice. And so, or you can't pop a Spell Shield with Buried in Ice is where I meant to go with that. And so I'm reasonably happy with the multiple copies of Champion Strength that we're out here sporting today. So with this, no real reason to get super involved with this Vaqueran Vagabond. We need to really maximize what our units are capable of doing here, since we have the 3 equipment in hand at the moment. And so I didn't want to just be trading our units away and then be in a spot to where we can't spend any mana. But it's starting to turn around here. Vayne was a fantastic draw. She's just bigger than everything on board. I'm leaning towards just adding Jarvan to the board next turn and trying to make an attack with him. But we'll see what turns up. We may end up wanting to just kind of hang on to Inner Beast, since the opposing deck just plays a metric ton of combat tricks. I'm feeling kind of okay about that. I mean, the Durandi Sculptor is a very real unit. Like, what's the worst that happens here? Is opponent's going to play Lee Sin? And, like, we can still hook Lee Sin with the Petricide Broadwing. We're probably not going to get the kill onto Lee Sin. I would be, he's probably just going to pop off a couple of spells, but the rest of our attacks should remain pretty good. The downside against attacking into Lee Sin is if he has, like, Wuju style, or if he has Shockwave, he's going to be able to get that +2 bonus attack. That's not quite what I'm wanting to deal with at the moment. Interesting just seeing Avenging Vastaya come down onto the board. We can continue to just take it slow. I mean, I feel pretty good about this next turn, just playing Yordle Ranger and tumbling it, getting the scout attack happening that way. This deck has so many combat tricks, I don't want to play into them too fast. But he has to have some kind of just super weird draw, right? If he's just dropping Avenging Vastayas on the board like that. So, another cool thing we can do with Tumble is, say we want to tumble any of our units on the board. We do have the 6 mana that would then in turn put Jarvan onto the board. I'm not going to go for that here. I want to save that for next turn, but worth noting, that's just another one of those super cool combos you can do with Tumbles and do with Cataclysms. Just getting a ton of extra value out of these things. But the way I'm kind of looking at this is, if we can tumble the Yordle Ranger this turn, that's awesome. We're going to get that scout attack and then get a fresh attack again after it. And then if we don't pop off with tumble, the next turn we can open with a scout attack, and that'll bring Jarvan onto the board. We can attack with him twice. So this might turn out to actually be a little bit awkward. We've had our tumble drop down to 2 mana, which is typically an advantage, but it's in the space to where it can get hit by Nopify now. Yeah, it's exactly what just happened to us, and so a little bit of a bummer in that sense, but I think we're still in a pretty commanding position here. We'll make the scout attack. Jarvan comes in. Everybody gets that bomb-ass bonus. And then we'll get to start in with some more attacks after that. Jarvan should be flipping here pretty soon. And so not only will we have access to these tumbles, we'll have access to the generated cataclysms that we can continue on with all of our sweet-ass combos with.
Purified bolt.
I don't know if opponent's just giving up here or what, but this is pretty good either way. don't have any Formidables on the board to have to worry about a quicksand. And so another one of the kind of annoyances you'll find with this format, having your Formidables get quicksanded. But I think, excuse me, I think at the end of the day we're doing just fine here. Alright, casted a bunch of pointless spells onto Akshan. Sounds good. You absolved him. Nice.
You can thank me later.
GG. Good game. Well played. On to the next battle. Alright, so sweet. I love it when we get to pull off some of the combos in the first game. You get to see a lot of what we're working with here. You get to see the beauty of some of the combos that may not come across just out of the initial 2-minute review of the deck. So, good stuff. Alright, so this will be a back alley bar deck. I'm actually curious as to how good these decks are in the current format. As like the Zoe deck doesn't have the ability to just kill you very fast. And if they're just going to dirtle around with a bunch of shitty and pointless units the whole game, you get plenty of time to just build up to that Ezreal. And I'm curious how much of a thing that is. I've come like this close to coming together and trying to play the Seraphine bar deck, but if we're gonna be real, probably just not gonna do it. And so this is an interesting spot. Like, we would love to get the Durandi Sculptor on board at this point. It's like we have the handful of Formidables right after this, but it's just so open to getting blown up by the opponent's initial removal spells that I almost want to add the Broadwing just as a little bit of a safer play. Since you can't high note the Broadwing, you can't just Mystic Shot the Broadwing. It gives us the opportunity to try and fish for a 2-for-1 right from the start. And then we'll see if we can't maybe next turn add a Durandi Sculptor along with a Darkened Spear or something. Ooh, Troll Chant, beautiful. That protection we're looking for.
All right, let's get to work.
Ideally, it's something we would get to use next turn instead of this turn, but we'll see how it plays out. Like, I think I'm okay if he comes in and tries to kill this first Sculptor. We can still try and get a second one down next turn if we want. Say whoops. Just zinged him, right? Just zinged him. Ooh, and Balin? I think I'm on board with Balin.
A little reinforcement at the seams.
Give me all them stats, please. It's like we got this formidable, the Petricite Charger in hand. It's the one I want to get on board so bad, right? He's just so close to popping off against this deck, but the mana just hasn't quite worked out. We've needed to keep our interactivity up and running. One of the things I will say about the likes of units like the Petricite Charger here is you don't see a ton of Inner Beasts running around. I'm trying to highlight it over to the left of the screen. This is just one of the cards I've really fallen in love with this style of deck, and especially more so now that we're playing with the Formidables. And so what you would have happen in the past, and the reason that I don't really like that Galio version, or that version we saw earlier, where your units all, your combat tricks all have toughness health, but they don't help your attack. You know, that's always nice with the toughness health with the likes of your Formidables, but it doesn't do anything for Durandi Sculptor or Fiora and the like. It's just I really want to have access to like plus attack combat tricks, and so that's what you get out of Inner Beast. You could play something like Catch, but the real winner in this is the stance swaps. There's so much that you can do with these stance swaps. We play an absolute ton of Ram stances, the 1 damage AoE. You'll see us play a lot of Overwhelms, and so you can be in this spot to where you put Overwhelm onto like Jarvan, and then you start cataclysming Jarvan into your opponent's units and doing a bunch of Overwhelm damage. And then you're going to see a lot of cards like, well, now that we're playing the Formidables, you have that opportunity to put +0, +2 regenerate onto your Balin or onto your other Petricite Broadwing kind of cards. Just all around super powerful.
Now that's a bit better.
But zinging in here pretty hard. We get this big open attack with Jarvan. Not likely to get the kill here. There's just too much stuff like wallops that can come in and shrink the size of our units, but I think we'll be in pretty okay shape here. And then I'm not too upset about losing this Durandi Sculptor. We've got enough health on our units now. It's really done its job. And just dropping a Naka to the board is the kind of next phase of things, right? Just a fantastic card that's good early, good late. We're going to have that opportunity for some of the good late style shenanigans coming out of him. Not a bad draw with Aegis either. If opponent wants to drop a bar, they're just going to get fucking nugged. Nothing wrong with just nugging super hard. Oh shit, we should not have played him. I was so excited about this Dark and Aegis, we didn't check the mana good enough. I think we're still going to be okay, but... Oh my gosh, we got a definite opportunity to just get zinged here now. F.
Mistakes make character, then you are
All right.
full of character.
I don't like how this happened. I don't like what's going on here. It should be pretty challenging for him to 14 us without a back alley bar on board, but it's certainly possible. It's most certainly possible, and so it would be actual impossible if we had just played the Petricite Hound and then played the Jarl. Man. See if we're just gonna fucking lose now. See if we're just gonna fucking lose. Alright, well, we got a lot of stats on board. I'm hoping that ideally, even if we don't get the kill here, that he has to invest so much resources into not dying that we're still able to, kind of end the game. But
Now let's really bring it.
this would be so done if we were just having a little bit more focus. And a Song Spinner, very decent chance we're dead. Well, lesson learned for you all. I'll sacrifice my LP for the greater good of the community. What do we got here? Dumb predict cards, okay. It's a couple damage to the face. Gotta worry about what those other two are, though. You got 2 cards left from that Song Spinner. Alright. And we still got it. Alright, we tried our best to lose that one, but at the end of the day, we were able to overcome. GG. A little bit of whoopsies.
Raise our banners. Demacia prevails.
Raise our banners. Demacia prevails. That's tough. That's scary. As soon as I do it, I knew mistakes were made. Problems were had. Here's a problem I've had here recently. What's this? No champion. I don't know what this is. Is this gonna be some kind of weirdo like timeline stack? I wonder. He's playing PNZ. It's probably with that new thing that gets double stats in your deck, and then he's playing like counterfeit copies of it. And so no, the things that are causing me problems these days, up through the entirety of my life, I've always had like a leather computer chair, office chair, gaming chair as we like to use in the terms nowadays, but I've always had leather, and so whenever you get something on it, you can just like wipe it off, right? And so the difference now being is I have this cloth chair, and the problem I've run into with it is I was eating like a chocolate bar, like a granola bar, and some of the chocolate stuff like fell off and it got on the seat, and then I like sat on it and like wiped ass into it, so it got all like kind of ground in and stuff. And now it looks like there's like a brown stain just sitting on my chair that I can't get rid of. And anytime you look at a brown stain on a chair, you go, that's poop. And it's like I don't want to have to like explain. You know, it's like every time this comes forward, you're just kind of like,
Come a long way from
it's not poop. Like, let me explain before you say any words. Let me let you know, it's not poop on the chair. This is my life now. This is what I have to do whenever somebody fresh comes in the room, or literally every time the wife comes in. I have to say it's not poop. It's not poop. What the fuck? This thing's an 8/8? Oh Jesus! Are we actually gonna lose to this dumb deck?
mistakes make characters,
Oh,
and
jeez.
you are full of character.
Not quite what I was expecting to have to deal with out of this. I just assumed we were gonna steamroll this game and move on to the next one, but turns out shit's getting a little realer than I expected. All right, well, how are we gonna go about this? We do have the champion strength in hand, not the real turbocharged champion strength of days of old. I would feel much better if we were getting scout units out of this. I feel like we just have to get enough stuff on board to where we have a full board champion strength, and then we can kind of go from there. We can tool around with this board a little bit. Like, I don't know if this deck is going to be playing stuff like Atrocity. Like, I feel like you have to invest so much into your dumb combo that you probably just don't have room for it. But I don't know. We're playing against a dude named Hyrule, and so who knows what's going to happen in that sense. All right. So what I'm feeling now, I think this is okay. We're going to start making our move. Let's hook these units out of combat, get in for a little bit of damage. We're going to get to refill the board this turn with both Vayne and Petricite Charger, and then next turn we'll try and kill him with Champion Strength. I don't think that that's a unreasonable assumption for what we can do. Continuing on with dumb combos for certain. All right, you're certainly going to have a gigantic unit in hand.
Monsters still lurk in Demasia's every shadow.
All right, see what we can do. So what might be saving us here is like it's going to take him a lot of time to just start putting all these dum-dums on the board. And so assuming he doesn't have Ruination, I think we'll be fine, right? So he's going to play a giant 30-30 dude, whatever it's going to be. We'll play the Champion Strength. He can either attack with it and kill off one unit or play an additional unit, and then we should be able to kill from there. So I think we're going to be okay here. Oh, Jesus, he's playing Clocklings? I don't think that's going to cut it. All right, got to be feeling good now. What do you got? What do you got? Big old Darkwraith, huh?
Needs a finishing
Well, that's certainly a 256 unit. Probably the biggest unit we're gonna see for the next 6 months. So
Now to root out the next phase.
I don't know if I've seen a unit bigger than that on board. Like I know Sunny and the like will go out there and make the meme videos with Meduli and just see if they can break the game with the size of the unit. But just through legitimate ladder grinding, I'm not certain how deep we're going to make it. All right, into the next battle, though, up against Akshan Samira. We don't have any way to interact with them early, so let's just go ahead and mulligan everything away. And I'm curious how deep the Brazilian guys were trying to beat this deck. As you saw, they were playing Mate Seeker Juniors as a way to, Lucky Find isn't very good if you have to spend 3 mana to play it. And I'm curious if how much they were actually able to counter this deck and how deep you really want to go in terms of playing the junior. I'm not certain. I don't have the answers to that.
Don't look the other way.
But reasonable enough start. We can take this action hit. We have a Petricite Charger for next turn. Touch of an awkward go here with this double Champion Strength, but we at least have a hand to where we're not just completely dead, which is cool, which is fun. how do we feel about attacking into this action? Like, this is a deck to where, you know, it's very reasonable for them to have a bunch of combat tricks. So I think we're just kind of stuck having to do it. Now that he's added a swinging glaive, life gets a little bit different.
I excel at making heads turn and roll.
Yeah, this just sucks so much. It's like, I want to take the Cataclysm into action, but it's like he just gets the free Lucky Find, and then he gets to put the Lucky Find onto Samira and put the Glaive onto Samira and then still attack. He wouldn't be able to get Challenger with her, but that almost certainly pops off the Warlord's Palace. I don't like how any of that sounds. This is getting nasty. I think this is okay going on to Samira. Like, I just don't want to deal with this action anymore. We just need to get units on board and be in a space to where we can play Champion Strength. Now, this is pretty dangerous in the sense that we don't have mana to play our Inner Beast, but we can't just let Samira sit around and fuck around all day and flip and then just kill us next turn. And so I think we're kind of stuck forcing that action.
You cannot run from absolution.
It's like they never don't have the combat trick there, right? They 100% have the combat trick all the time, but it at least kind of counters a little bit of what their deck is trying to do, in the sense that he doesn't get to use a flare, he doesn't get to generate another flare, he doesn't get to flip his Samira, and it should give us hopefully a little bit more time. This is just pretty done. I'll take the hook. He's gonna have combat tricks. we at least have an Inner Beast for this one, but I think this is frequently just an all-terrain trooper, and then we can fight through that and maybe get him to play more combat tricks. But we're definitely struggling here. It's interesting. I'm curious why they're going so hard against this deck. Like, if it's going to be like a best of 3 style thing. Like, he's playing the Absolver this early. Wow. Interesting. I don't think there's too much reason to continue going on. Like, he's probably just going to cast the Absolver anyway this turn. And so wasting the spell doesn't feel like a real win. Okay, we'll call it a day in this game. This one's done. I don't know if we'd have been able to combat that even if we had a hand that didn't contain 2 champion strengths in it. But GG, on to the next one. But no, I'm curious in terms of like best of 3 if you wouldn't just be willing to ban the action deck, because the thing with, like, if you're going to be in the space where you say, like, okay, well, the Cosmic Call deck is just absurd, we have to ban it. There's a lot of people just bringing 3 Cosmic Call decks into best of 3. And so you can run into some spaces to where if you want to say, okay, the Viktor version of this deck is the best, and then the Zoe version's the best, but they're wanting to play 3 versions of this deck, so they also have to include like a Zoe's Samira kind of split. And it's like, I still feel like in the space of what you're going to see in best of 3, that you just never get a real opportunity to ban the Cosmic Call deck to where you do have the opportunity to ban the action deck. So, if you're not familiar with this delight that we're about to run into, the No Champion Ionia Shurima deck, this is going to be the landmark, the Transform Me landmark with the Beguiling Cobra. And so he's going to try and get that completely full board full of Cobras as a nice little combo play. So we'll see what happens. Maybe missed a couple of points of damage here, but I think it's been an okay start.
Mistakes make character, then you are full of character.
So the thing you're trying to do here is the Green Glade Lookout. Reduces the cost of that Cobra, so you get your combo on board a little bit faster, a little bit cheaper. I'm interested with this deck. If like knowing that your opponent's idea is to put the landmark on board and then play Beguiling Cobra, if you just let them keep these units on board, then they can't actually perform their combo. Like, can we build up enough after that to still just come in and outright win the game? And so the idea that we're kind of proposing right here is that we just don't attack, and then we just build up into a big champion strength. And I think it probably has some merit, but I don't think it's going to be worth going for here. So let's just continue playing a normal game. I don't know if we ever get the chance to like spike the landmark or something, but it just strikes me as there just being like a lot of opportunity for
When we look ahead, we know how to prepare.
you know, they just don't have the combo.
What do these yordle eyes see?
I think that's how it works, right? The Cobra doesn't completely transform everything. I think I'm right. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again, but I think in that one I'm right.
Demons walk among us, masquerading as men.
So how much do we think we're gonna actually be able to play a champion strength? Like, I'm looking to say just Cataclysm Vayne into this dum-dum over here. And then next turn we'll open attack and then follow up with champion strength. Okay. I don't know. It's ultimately pretty scary. The thing that might be kind of saving us here is it's a pretty long combo in terms of putting both of those units on the board. And so, you know, like this turn, he shouldn't be able to play both the landmark and the Cobra. It's like he has to play the landmark this turn and then roll into next turn with the Cobra. So if we can run into some spots to where we get a chance to
Sound the alarm.
just like force him to spend a bunch of mana and be slow in the combo. I don't feel good about the champion strength resolving, but we don't have much choice in whatever else we're gonna do. Okay.
Where's my hammer?
All right. Well, we're making the attack. I worry that exact thing we were talking about is gonna cut us a little bit short here. Looks like we're lethal. Quicksand will stop the damage, but you know. If we had just let the units sit on board, he wouldn't be able to Cobra us. I'm not certain. We're not going to get lethaled here, though. We can come in and just block the big one and then still just have some dudes on board.
With a little help, I made you fly.
We'll have to figure out a way through this. So far, so good. Gonna let the Broadwing take down the one Cobra, fall to 4, and then we'll put. I guess we have the choice, and we'll still have 8 mana next turn, so we can go ahead and put the regenerate stance onto our Broadwing. And then we can look to make a champion strength play next turn. I didn't see where we blocked, though. I'm curious if, like, I'm not... We probably want the Land of Imitation to still be on the opponent's board. Because he's not going to be able to block with it this turn unless he just picked up another unit. So, you're not capable. You don't have. You're not capable, my friend. It's kind of a bummer. Thought we were going to be able to get a hook out of this thing. Maybe we'll just have to wait until next turn. Well. Things were going a little bit better. That was a pretty juicy predict. I feel like we had this game right on the ropes, and then he hit that last predict into a card he has 2 of in his deck.
Death it is. Say your prayers.
We're counting on you, Bart. You gotta do your thing. You gotta do your thing hard. So let's see. I don't think it's gonna be able to attack this turn. Yeah, it's just this like one Cobra just has slightly enough health to cause so many problems. Big Daddy Galio turning up. He's pretty close. He's pretty close to doing some good shenanigans here. Like, we can start to fight through this. Galio will take the Broadwing up to 11, to where it can start taking these other Cobras down.
I'm awake. Must be some magic about.
War is a curse I cannot permit.
These things just keep growing. Each round, the first time you summon another follower, summon an exact copy of it. Huh. Okay. I think we summon an exact copy of it. I don't know if we should have taken down the landmark or not. Ooh, that's dumb. So close though. Like,
We lost. Let's go fight.
feels like we
something
were
else.
just like one stat point away from running away from that nonsense, and I feel like we really had it after the first Cobra, but then having the single predict into the 2 copies of Cobra left in the deck, you know, kind of is what it is. But all right, let's get ourselves one more game in. We'll probably be pretty close to the hour mark after this one, up against the Seraphine back alley bar deck. Gotta find a little bit more early game presence. Not the most aggressive of starts. Really like a Petricite dog to go with this. Just banking into turn 3 feels terrible. Hi, Broadwing. You're here to save the day. I appreciate that.
Lyrics just aren't coming to me. Time to find a muse.
All right, so I'm usually kind of interested in this spot as to if we would prefer to load up the Broadwing with either the Tough or with the Spear. You know, it's pretty close. I think we'll probably just need to go for the Spear in terms of I want the stats going on our units in our deck. We need something to go right with what's happening on top, because we've just drawn pure top end up to this point. But the Darken Aegis is a little bit better at soaking up removal spells. But it's like I want to get the Darken Aegis on board for our next attack, but we can just like cycle the equipment around. So there's a lot of interesting things you can kind of pull off with this turn. We wouldn't have been able to get the kill onto Seraphine either way here, but worth noting in that sense. I'll just leave the Broadwing. It's very susceptible to damage, but I think I'm just a little bit more interested in trying to pop off with the Jarral and the Yordle Ranger, and then going for big Cataclysm plays. I don't like interacting with this particular Seraphine isn't the most important thing we can be doing here.
With impeccable breath.
Okay, don't want to just take a ton of damage. Again, this Broadwing, hooking in these units isn't particularly important, and I want to make him have to put in a little bit more work in terms of popping off with Seraphine. So this is what I'm kind of really hoping these damage-based decks will start to have fits with, is using the Yordle Ranger to just boost our health and then make all of their defensive measures, kind of suck. And so, it gets much more challenging to try and high note a unit as you sit out here and boost its health. So, very, very interested in that sense. So this Seraphine's been protected. We're gonna try and just Cataclysm next turn, and so again with this Cataclysm, it's going to be a scout-based thing with the Yordle Ranger, and then it will also put Jarvan onto the board. And so it should be pretty high-powered. Bars. Okay. Maybe we should have flipped these around. Jarvan's gonna come in. Should have probably let his barrier soak up the 3 points of damage. But we'll see if it matters. So he's got 1 mana. We're about to just zing him. And then I was gonna show with the next turn we do get that chance to where you just open attack with everybody, and then your opponent has to deal with that. Then we would have had the chance to tumble and Cataclysm off of our Yordle Ranger. So we would have had a chance to get that attack token back and then attack with everybody again. Very high-powered stuff that you're able to do there. And so, not a bad set of games. We can pull this up and talk about it a little bit more. Again, I really love this style of deck. I love all of the interactive options that you get out of the Cataclysms and the tumbles and everything that they're able to work together with in terms of the Rangers and the Balins and the Anakas off of the Darkened Spear. Just all around very powerful things that you're able to do there. And so to me, as it stands in the current meta, this deck is fine. This is something that the meta is so spread out that having these kind of generalist decks on the ladder can be quite good. You're going to run into matchups that just ace you, right? The Pirates match is very challenging. The Elusives match, the PNZ Targon Elusives deck is pretty challenging. But as we've kind of seen in the past, those decks were just kind of pushed out of the field by how much life gain was running around. And so if they aren't really popping up in large numbers, then decks like this can really, really pop off. And I really like a lot of the options that this has going for it. And so, again, if you are looking to, kind of tweak things and change things and work differently in the meta, you can swap out these champion strengths for other things. You can get very aggressive in taking out your concerted strikes. You can look to add in cards like Buried in Ice. If things like Action are too popular for you, there was the Mage Seeker that you can look to add in. The Flash Freezes help a lot there as well. There's lots of room for potential maneuvering with this deck, but at its core, I really like what's happening with the Balin and the Spears and the Formidables. I think this is going to be a bit of a contender for a while, and it's a very strong and fun deck to bring to battle. And so, good set of games. I had fun. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. So I hope everyone enjoyed the video. I hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. So this is Bust, and we thank you for being here.